Please stop doing hundreds of crunches thinking that it's going to tone your stomach, because the truth is you can do a million crunches a day and your stomach can look exactly the same. The only way that you can get the look that you want to achieve is, one, you need to... Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to be debunking the myth that you can spot reduce where you lose fat. But before I start, you guys know the drill. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, ding ding ding. And if you don't want to watch the entire video, I will be including timestamps in the description so you can skip ahead to the section that you want. Now onto the topic at hand. The myth that you can spot reduce where exactly you lose your fat is something that has been floating around ever since working out has been a thing. And every single time somebody used to come to me earlier in my career, they would always tell me, I want to lose fat in this area, so I want to do exercises to target that area. And the truth is, you cannot spot reduce fat in your body from doing specific exercises. Now, what exactly is spot reduction for those of you who do not know? Basically, spot reduction is the ability to burn fat in a specific area of your body. And one example would be somebody wanting to lose fat in their abdominal region and wanting to do crunches in order to lose fat in your abdominal region. But that is not exactly how fat loss works. When it comes to fat, fat in our cells is going to be stored in the form of triglycerides. And those triglycerides are going to be stored as fat to be used later as a form of energy. Now, one of the things with regard to the utilization of fat is your fat needs to be broken down into free fatty acids and glycerol. And during exercise, free fatty acids and glycerol are going to be used as fuel. But the problem is it can be taken from absolutely anywhere in your body. You can be doing a bicep curl and you could lose weight in your calves. You can be doing crunches and you can lose fat in your triceps. You cannot choose where exactly the fat comes from. And another thing is that there is going to be a huge genetic component when it comes to fat loss. Basically, every single person, based off of what their hormone profile is like, they are going to lose fat in different areas based on their hormonal profile. One good example would be when you look at the differences between men and women. Typically, women are going to store fat in their hips and thighs, whereas men, they are going to store fat in their abdominal region. Now, if you look at the hormonal profile of men compared to women, generally, women are going to have much higher levels of estrogen relative to men, and men are going to have much higher levels of testosterone relative to women. And a lot of women, once they reach menopause, because of the hormonal changes that are going to be going on in their body, they will start to redistribute their fat in different areas. Where normally they would have stored fat in their hips and thighs, after menopause, a lot of women will tend to store fat in their abdominal region. So because of these different hormonal factors, this could influence where exactly you lose your fat. So how exactly are hormones going to relate to fat storage? Well, generally, the body areas where you store your fat can have a correlation to different hormonal imbalances. A few examples that I'm going to list out right now. If you tend to store a lot of fat in your chest and triceps, that could be a sign of a testosterone imbalance. If you store a lot of fat in your hips and thighs, that can be a sign of an estrogen imbalance. If you store a lot of fat in your stomach, that could be a sign of high cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone. If you store a lot of fat in your upper back, lower back, and also in your love handles, that can be a sign of some issues with regard to insulin. And if you store a lot of fat in your calves, then that could be a sign of imbalance with regard to growth hormone. So while you cannot specifically spot reduce with regard to exercise, by managing your hormones properly, it may be possible to spot reduce if you address your hormonal imbalances. And with regard to training, depending on what your hormonal imbalance is, how exactly should you train? Well, let's say you have an issue with regard to a mismanagement of your testosterone and estrogen. With regard to testosterone and estrogen, one of the ways that you can boost your testosterone levels is through strength training. So if you are storing a lot of fat, and the reason you are storing a lot of fat is because you have a imbalance with regard to your testosterone to estrogen, then by incorporating more strength training, you can increase your testosterone levels and you may be able to lose more fat and target the areas such as your chest and your triceps. Now, let's say you have an issue with insulin. If you have an issue with insulin, then endurance training is going to be more beneficial for people that have issues with insulin. And if you do have issues with insulin, then incorporating more endurance training, you may be able to target areas such as your back, upper back, lower back, and also your love handles. And then lastly, with regard to cortisol, we know that cortisol is your stress hormone. So whenever you exercise, that is going to be a stress on your body. And the more vigorous the exercise is, the more of a stressor that is going to place on your body. So if you're the type of person where you have very chronically high levels of cortisol, then one way that you can spot reduce with regard to your stomach is by doing more low intensity exercise. And when you do work out, you want to make sure that you are able to fully recover. You don't want to train to the point where you are completely exhausted, because if you are somebody that already has high levels of cortisol, training at that intensity is just going to exacerbate that and raise your cortisol levels even more. Now, with regard to spot reduction, even though you can't spot reduce, there are ways that you can make the illusion of achieving a leaner look in certain areas. One of that would be through targeted training. With regard to spot reduction and targeted training, let's say you want your arms to look a little bit leaner. Well, you can do things like barbell curls and tricep extensions, and your arms will get bigger, but you can't necessarily choose to lose fat in your arms. Although, if you do exercises like barbell curls or tricep extensions and your arms get bigger, naturally, because the muscle is going to become larger, this can give the illusion of having a leaner appearance, even if the amount of fat in the area stays exactly the same. And this is true for every area in the body. Let's say you want your thighs to tone up a little bit and you want your thighs to be a little bit leaner. Well, you can do a lot of leg exercises, and it's not necessarily going to reduce the fat in your legs, but if you end up growing the muscle in your thighs, then naturally, as the muscle starts to expand, then it is going to give an illusion of a leaner look. This is why a lot of professional bodybuilders, even in the off season, if their body fat percentage is a little bit higher, because they have so much muscle mass on them, even at a higher body fat percentage, they still tend to look relatively lean. Now, with regard to all of this, exercise is going to be a great way to help tone up your body, but it's not going to be the best way. It's not going to be the most effective way when it comes to toning your body, because when it comes to exercise is only going to be responsible for roughly 5% of your total daily energy expenditure. What that means is all of the calories that you burn throughout the day, only 5% of that is going to be attributed through exercise. 70% is going to be because of your BMR, or your basal metabolic rate, and those are the calories that you burn at rest. So most of the calories that you burn is going to be coming when you are doing absolutely nothing at all. So because exercise burns such few calories relative to the total amount of calories that you're burning throughout the day, the most effective strategy at helping you to tone up and get leaner is going to be through diet, because at the end of the day, your diet is going to be what determines whether or not you gain or lose fat, because at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to calories in versus calories out. If you are in a caloric deficit, you are going to lose weight. If you're in a caloric surplus, you're going to gain weight. And if the amount of calories that you take in is equal to that of your total daily energy expenditure, your weight is going to stay exactly the same. So if you would like to lose body fat, the most effective way is going to be to get into a caloric deficit. And while exercise will help you to get into a caloric deficit, exercise alone is not going to be effective, because 1 hour of exercise for the average person, they are going to burn roughly 150 to 300 calories. A lot of people, they tend to overestimate how many calories they burn when they are doing exercise, but the truth is, it is a very, very small amount. So if you are exercising and you are not dieting properly, then all of that time that you are spending in the gym exercising, it's basically going to be wasted, because without proper nutrition, you are not going to see the results that you would like to see. So if you would like to tone up, you cannot tone up simply by spot reducing, but if you are in a caloric deficit and you do specific targeted toning of specific areas to make certain areas larger, then it can help you achieve the look that you would like to achieve. So please stop doing hundreds of crunches thinking that it's going to tone your stomach, because the truth is, you can do 1,000,000 crunches a day and your stomach can look exactly the same. The only way that you can get the look that you want to achieve is, one, you need to exercise your whole body, and you want to do big bang exercises. The big bang exercises, those are going to be your big compound movements, your multi-joint movements, things like pushing, pulling, bending, lunging, squatting, and twisting. Those exercises are going to burn many more calories than something like crunches. And because they burn more calories, that means it's going to be easier for you to be in a caloric deficit. And because it's easier for you to be in a caloric deficit, that means it's going to be easier for you to lose fat. So rather than doing crunches to try and tone up your abs, do big compound movements like squats, deadlifts, and all those other types of multi-joint movements, because it's going to be much more effective. But that's pretty much it for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so I know to make more of these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I will be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.